Now, is this the only thesaurus I've got? Is this the only thesaurus I've got in here? Because on Saturday, after the Hearts game, I used the phrase absolutely fantastic about once every 30 seconds. And that was in a 37-minute podcast. And folk aren't going to stand for that again. They deserve better than that. They'll be switching off even earlier than usual if I start using that phrase again. So I need to find some synonyms. To find some alternatives of what we hear about. Absent-minded, absolutely. Right, so instead of absolutely, I could say completely, or utterly, or totally, entirely, fully, wholly, in every way. Well, it wasn't in every way fantastic tonight, but anyway. Downright, thoroughly, perfectly. So utterly fantastic, totally fantastic, entirely fantastic. Right, that's great, that's fine. So what about fantastic itself? What have we got here? Fantasise, fantastic. Right, so I could say wonderful, splendid, marvellous, excellent, first rate. Well, it wasn't first rate tonight, but great, superb to me. So absolutely wonderful, absolutely splendid, absolutely marvellous, absolutely excellent. That's absolutely, we're good to go. I'll just maybe look up a wee dirty word while I'm here. What have we got? What about bottom? Let's look up bottom. Posterior, rear end. Bum, nice one. Arse, yeah. Brendan Rodgers. Hi folks, welcome to your Gersnet immediate post-match reaction pod, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering and our good friends at Football Prizes. My name's Alec Anderson, blue, electric blue. That's the colour of my room where I currently sit. It doesn't look, I know it's it just looks kind of white, kind of half-white. It is actually a light blue. You can't really see it because of a massive red coupon, which is still, it's more red than usual because I'm still decompressing, de-stressing after the game that I actually watched, not in this room, but next door in the kitchen, on the table, on the laptop. I paid my $12.99, almost unlucky 13, to Kilmarnock TV, Killy TV, to watch Rangers beating Kilmarnock by 2-1 at Rugby Park in the SPFL Premiership tonight. Did you see that Professor Alice Roberts thing on Sunday? Professor, I mean, she was on like 2 channels, I think, in the BBC, doing two different BBC things, and it's like, I think they want you to fancy her. You know what I mean? It's that terrible time of night. They did the same thing with Simon Reeves going all around the world and that. The hunky Jones. What's the guy's name on Channel 4 that does all the crazy buildings? And he's kind of for hipster women, hipster blokes are supposed to sit and like, oh, we're not actually fancying them. It's because of the subject matter. It's really, I mean, fair play to her, the way women are treated in the job market and all that, even if she is, I mean, she's a professor. I mean, the subject matter is interesting enough in its own right. She shouldn't have to, but fair play to her. She gets a chance. I get yourself on the telly and that end. Absolutely. Men are absolutely awful to women generally. So you're quite right to do whatever you can. But it was interesting enough in its own right. But you watch it. No, it's the religious stuff has been on. You're not interested in watching that. It's too early for a drama or a fictional thing. You just want someone kind of just let your brain. And these things are so dumbed down that even somebody like me can understand it. It was about woolly mammoths. That was the whole thing. It was about woolly mammoths. I know she was in that episode of Detectorists, and it's quite cute that they fancy her because they're kind of geeky and that kind of thing, and then they don't notice her because they're so busy looking for the Holy Grail. But it's still kind of, it's a bad idea that she can only be famous because men fancy. Anyway, so she's doing a thing about woolly mammoths, the old dinosaur elephants, or whatever you want to call them, like big hairy elephants that have been dead for thousands and thousands of years. Turned out they're actually still around when humans were roaming the earth. No, they're up in Europe and stuff like that. They get, quite, not like elephants stuck down in Africa and India and that. These were actually up in Europe and in Siberia, where it's still a bit like the Ice Age when they've preserved. There's lots of carcasses of woolly mammoths have been almost perfectly preserved. And there was this team of Japanese scientists, and they were kind of cutting right into a big tusk, one of the big tusks that had been found in the old tundra or whatever they call it. It's science stuff, I'm not really. But they were taking the marrow out this bone, basically, the tusk, and they were going to make a woolly mammoth. They're going to make a woolly mammoth. I'm thinking, that's absolutely. It said it would take them about 5 years' time. Oh, that's total Jurassic. I don't mean Alan Partridge, Jurassic Park. I mean actual Jurassic Park. They were going to make a woolly mammoth, this thing that's been dead for thousands of years, and it's way bigger than an elephant and all that. And they were going to make one. They said it'd take them about 5 years. And I'm thinking, I want to be around for that, man. I better try and look after myself enough so that I'm around to see that, because that'd be pretty exciting. And the end of the programme, it was 2012. That programme had been filmed in 2012. It was a repeat. I thought she was looking a bit younger. Anyway, so it's like, I think, wait a minute, to the extinction, 2012, you know what I mean? And there was, well, that would mean it would be 2017 that they got the result, the epic result they were looking for, finally back on top. You know, you can see what I'm doing here. But I looked it up on the internet, you know, I thought I would probably have heard about that if somebody had made a woolly mammoth. It turned out they'd put the DNA into a mouse, and you know, it didn't really get any bigger or grow tusks or anything like that. But they said things were kind of ticking along nicely, but they hadn't actually got there quite yet. Well, no worries, boys. Don't worry about it, because tonight was mammoth, wasn't it? Rugby Park tonight. That result by Rangers, absolutely mammoth. A totally mammoth moment in the SPFL Premiership in the history of Rangers FC tonight. I think they went into this game on a run of, 10 games in all competitions, victories all the way in the year 2024, and there was 11 league games left to play. We've come out of it tonight with 11 victories, 11 straight victories in all competitions, all in the year 2024, and there's only 10 league games left to play. 5 of them in the regular season, the remaining 5 in what the Americans call the postseason. The Americans who developed the W. It's the W. They got the W. You know, the Cubs used to fly the flag at Wrigley Field to let folk who were at their work or couldn't afford to go to the game know that they've won. They put an L up, but they didn't. But it's the W. They got the W. You look at the form guide, the BBC, you look at the league table or whatever, and you look at the form guide that say it'll be WWW. It's only, I think, only fitting about 5 or 6 of them. There's more than that. It's 11 now under Philip Clement, and it's true what they say. It's boring, isn't it? It's just, did Rangers draw the day? No, they won. Did they get beat? No, they won. It's really boring. It's the same old thing. And did I tell you I'm from North Ayrshire? Did I tell you I'm from Ardrossan? That my local team is Kilmarnock. That's who I should support. My dad's a lapsed Kilmarnock supporter. His dad is very much a Kilmarnock supporter. I never met the man. I never met my paternal grandfather. He died before I was born. He died, my dad was just 14 years old. He died in 1963 of cancer, don't we all, in Scotland. And he died 63, Kilmarnock, the only time they were ever champions of Scotland was 1965. Absolutely crap from the man. And I support my local team, Winton Rovers. I had a season ticket for my hometown juniors team a long time before I had a season ticket for Ibrox. But there's always been that wee bit in there. I know he was a man, my gran, who loved Rangers. She told me that he always thought you should support your local team. He had no time for all this old firm nonsense. You should support your local team. So that made me feel bad. But it was my dad. He didn't want me going through the same kind of misery he went through. And also with his dad dying when he was 14 years old, and him growing up with the 4 sisters and his mum having to work about 3 different jobs to raise them, he thought, sod going to the fit bar, just get to the pub and make sure you enjoy your weekends. So he had a point. Just let me support Rangers, let my gran and his young sister take over. They were Rangers staff. So I should really have supported Kilmarnock, but I was watching Kilmarnock TV the night, quite happy to pay my 13 quid, because I don't understand the VPN thing and all that, and I thought, I don't feel so guilty about paying it to them, because I've got that family connection. But they always tell you, don't they, the Kilmarnock supporters that I've met who aren't my dad's or my long dead paternal grandpa, it must be boring watching a team that wins all the time. It must be just boring watching a team that wins all the time. You tend to find that these supporters of Kilmarnock or other provincial teams, did I say provincial? That's a bit insulting, doesn't matter. I told my mates a story about a lassie who'd sailed all around the world. She was only 16, so that means I don't have to apologise for this kind of thing. They would always support an English team, and it wasn't Walsall or Rotherham or something. It was tend to be a team from Manchester or Merseyside or London that would win a lot of games. So I sod them. But they're right. They say www. There's no www. Philip Clement at Rangers are top of the league _yabeauty.co.union Jack. No, it's just www. There's no end to it. There's a ... at the end. There's the ellipsis, which means to be continued. They're going to keep up the W's. And that's pretty exciting as far as I'm concerned. But it's like Pete Sampras just serving volley, isn't it? It's like Nick Faldo just pitching putt. It's so cold. He's no Seve. It's just winning, isn't it? It's like Steve Davis. The Steve Davis of the Green Bays, the Steve Davis of the grey and white Northern Ireland top, although he was pretty bloody consistent as well. It's just boring teams that win all the time, and I'm sorry, Rangers are boring. That's why I ended up using the phrase absolutely fantastic so many times in Saturday's post-match reaction pod after the Hearts game, because it got to the point I couldn't think of anything else. I was trying to be so articulate, I was trying to be so careful. I was saying things like Gorgie boys, after saying that Lauren Shankland was the Gabriel Batistuta of... I didn't say Hearts, said Gorgie boys, Gabriel Batistuta, the same initials. It was just to make it better. And then I listened to it back, and I was saying absolutely fantastic 248 million times in that pod. So I'm sorry about that. And I'm sorry, I don't have anything else to tell you tonight. You know, all we can really do, I think, I mean, it's great for the soul. It's like an MOT. It's like a service. It's like a soul's being serviced. You get new blades on the wipers, so the window's always really clear, no matter what the weather. You know, there's new spring in the tyres. You're hugging the road better. That squeaky noise in the back, it's gone completely. Don't know what that was all about. The engine's been retuned. You know, everything just feels good in life when you're win, 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 win. But it's boring. It's really boring. So all we can really do is lift the hood and let the mechanic explain to us the interesting ways, workings of this engine that Rangers seem to have harnessed victory. They seem to have maintained victory, sustained victory. It just keeps happening. They just keep getting the 3 points. Now, I was scared. I did that same thing. There's things you should never do. You should never do, and like the whole thing, you should never, eat the yellow snow. You should never get off the boat. You should never put that oven on at 180, even if it says 180. I'm talking about fan assisted because the chicken, it heats a bit too much, a bit too warm. Anything you need in there, like a turkey or chicken for over an hour, just at 170, even if it says 180 in the packet. And you should never check the Celtic score before full time. If they're playing a different day for us, never check their score before full time, because you just know it's got, and add on the 10 minutes injury time, factor it in your head if we check. But I had to go onto the phone on Sunday to check something else. I forgot all about the Celtic game. And I know these Rangers fans, I know all Rangers fans on the internet, on Twitter and all that, they're an absolute nightmare, and some of them are saying, that's it, they're 1-0 down at half time, and Rodgers is getting absolute pelters off Celtic fans on here, on Twitter. And right, that's me. I knew, and I couldn't help it. I couldn't help hoping. It's the hope that kills you, and you start thinking, is this like Tony Mowbray? Is this like Lennon in the 55 season? Are they just the fact that we've gone 5 points clear yesterday, even though this is their game in hand to catch up, get it back to? They're just going to jack it in. Is the arse going to just fall out their season now that we've caught up with them? And also when Celtic win that game by scoring 2 late goals, you're like, for Christ's sake! And suddenly you're thinking, no, actually we're at Rugby Park, and Rangers are terrible at Rugby Park. We've got a terrible record at Rugby Park since we come back into the top flight, and Kilmarnock are at home to, Celtic are at home to Dundee. We could find ourselves not top of the league by Wednesday. I haven't thought for 24 hours. We're out of sight. We're going to win this, baby. Celtic are just going to collapse and hand it to us. You're suddenly thinking by Thursday morning we're going to be in second place again. And fair play to Celtic, the opposite thing happened tonight. When we're 1-0 down at half time tonight, I'm thinking, I am going to check the Celtic score. I need to know. And I had worked out already, I don't know if you've done the same thing as well, if we only get a draw at Rugby Park tonight. Rugby Park, where the old firm, and I do want to be a half of this sometimes, had lost 3 times this season without scoring a goal. I do want to know the goal difference. If we manage to get a draw, does that be a good enough result? Because Celtic need to win by 7 goals. No, 6 goals. I think it'd be 6 goals in terms of the goals scored. They need to win by 6 clear goals to go top of the league if we get a point tonight. Half time they were 6-0 up in Dundee. They were 6-0 up at half time. So that was good of Celtic to let us know straight away exactly what we needed to do in the second half. I take it Dundee weren't lying down to Celtic tonight the way Hearts lay down to us. They were fighting. It was just a valiant effort. It was too, that's what happens. Teams just play really well. So the thing tonight was we knew exactly what was required of Rangers at half time, and this game came down to 2 moments where Rangers players hit the deck and handle the ball, stop the ball, anticipating a free kick. They don't play the whistle in the first half, Barnabaras. It didn't get away with it in the second half. The one and only Tom Lawrence did, because it was a foul, and he played the ball really quickly, and that sealed the comeback for Rangers to win 2-1. It's always 2-1 at Rugby Park. Sometimes it's 1 each. Sometimes it's 0-0. Sometimes it's 1. Have we been beaten 1-0 by Kilmarnock at Rugby Park? I think we might have been. But we never seem to score more than twice there. What kind of skews that view is that in Steven Gerrard's first season, I think maybe right at the start of it, we beat Kilmarnock 4-1, I think, at Rugby Park on a Sunday on the plastic in the League Cup. It was a League Cup, and Alfredo got a perfect hat-trick, left foot, right foot header. I think he scored another goal as well. It was wrongly ruled out because we didn't have VAR in those days, the saviour of the game. But I one foot, so you think, we did get a good result down there, but no. I know I'm talking rubbish, right? You know the score, you know what happened tonight. I'm going to get into it. But something happened tonight that it freaked me out. And the only way I don't know how I can make you believe me. It's one of the things like photographs or video evidence that it didn't happen. And it happened about 20 minutes before the game started. I was setting up in the kitchen. getting the laptop ready, just making sure everything was in place, the Wi-Fi was working, and I did actually have money in my account to pay for this thing. And then my wife comes out in the kitchen, and what can I say? I swear on the glorious memory of Davy Cooper's left foot. That's about as sincere as I can get with you folks. I don't mean, I swear that I've actually got a wife. A lot of you will only believe that. But my wife comes into the kitchen, and cut a long story short, she's got a coat hanger that's broken. She's got a broken coat hanger, and she's going, oh, I don't know my own strength. My wife's like as short and thin as I'm tall and fat. So there's a kind of private joke, really boring. Anyway, she's saying that a broken coat hanger. She's showing me, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And she's like, what are you suddenly? She's looking at me thinking, does he suddenly care about the price of a coat hanger? What is his? I'm like, no, that's unreal. That's unbelievable. Every time a Rangers player gets interviewed, and they do this stupid thing where it explains a lot of the problems with stuff online and that these days, where folk confuse aggression with strength. 9 times out of 10, folk being aggressive are usually weak. And Walter Smith was, he had to be aggressive. Obviously, when he's playing football, and there was times in his management career where he was definitely aggressive. But the main thing is, it's because he was such a strong personality, because he was such a quality man, that a quality person. I don't mean that in that sense, but he's don't have to apologise. I told that story about a lassie sailing around the world, but they ask him, what's the angriest you ever saw? What was the most aggressive you ever saw Walter Smith? Reporters are always asking, and I don't think that's right. But he asks his players. I've heard his players in his last ever Rangers team. There must have been 3 of them, three different times I've heard this. What's the angriest you ever saw Walter Smith? And they all say the same thing. Half time at Rugby Park on the last day of the 2010-2011 season. Where we had to win the game. We're 3-0 up at half time, but we had to win the game. If we drew that game, we knew Celtic would win at Parkhead. It was neck and neck in the last game of the season, and they would take the title from us. And Walter Smith obviously was trying to overcompensate for and wanting these players to make sure that they kept up the intensity, didn't slacken off in the second half and throw away the league title. And everybody says he had this coat hanger. I think it was a wooden coat hanger, and he smashed it. He was thumping it off something. He was so raging that they were failing to keep getting the ball forward. I tell you, keep playing it forward, and that's how we'd scored 3 goals in the first 7 minutes of that game. Keep playing it forward, and he's smashing a coat hanger. And I'm thinking, that was at Rugby Park. That was the last time we won the league in front of a crowd. That was when Walter Smith did that, his last game as Rangers manager, and it was at Rugby Park. And I think that was the last time we ever put away Kilmarnock conclusively. Now, we very much didn't do that tonight. In the league, we had that League Cup game, as I say. But we very much didn't do that tonight. But there was something special about it. There was something very, very special about it. And that's the one thing about when you're winning all the time. You can get under the bonnet, look at those wins, examine them, and you see they're very different. Every way that we were dominating and controlling and almost forensic, robotic on Saturday against Hearts, the team in 3rd place. Tonight against Kilmarnock, the other form team in Scotland, after we ensured that that Hearts were no longer a form team in Scotland. We were all over the place. We had real problems. We were absolutely terrible at times, but we turned it round by applying ourselves just enough. Just enough at key moments in this game. At a key moment in the second half, we turned this round. And it was but we ended that game at 3 corners. The referee gave 6 minutes of injury time, and it was the 6th to the 7th minute of injury time that Kilmarnock had 3 different corners into our box. We kept putting it out for a corner. Their goalkeeper was up for it, and you're thinking, everything that's happened to us here since we come back into the top flight, since Walter Smith stopped being Rangers manager, it indicates that they are going to equalise. Ally McCoist took over, of course, from Walter in 2011-2012 season, which was, tumultuous for much bigger reasons. By the end up, went to Rugby Park and we lost 1-0. A goal 10 minutes from the end. Our next trip to Rugby Park, after beating them 5-1 that day under Walter and winning the title, securing the title in his last game as Rangers manager. We lost our first trip to Rugby Park the following season. Our only trip to Rugby Park the following season, a goal, an Italian fella. I can't remember his name. He scored late on, 10 minutes to go or something like that. Bad. And then, of course, we're in the bottom flight and we don't play Kilmarnock again. We're back in the top flight. That's 2016-2017 season. we're a goal down and we equalise. James Tavernier equalises. And then Kilmarnock have a man sent off straight after that, but it finishes 1-1. I think we drew maybe 0-0 there, the other game that season at Rugby Park. This is I think it's the plastic now, isn't it? And then we played the following season under Gerrard. I think did we go 1-0 up in both games, lost them both 2-1. We beat Celtic at Ibrox, that epic game. We beat them the first time in the league since we come back into the top. That was 2 seasons later. And we went to Rugby Park. That was our first league game we played when we come back from the winter break. And we're 1-0 up, or we equalised, but Kilmarnock win with a late goal. And it just kept happening. Chris Boyd was scoring goals against us. Declan John, I think he put us 1-0 up one season, maybe under Murty, and then it ends up Boyd scores 2 goals and we get beat 2-1, and it was always kind of late on. There was always a moment where we thought you were doing well, but we never started these games well. And even when we scored a goal, even when we equalised or took the lead, there'd been such an effort to get us back to that level of performance that we immediately would drop off. And Kilmarnock, obviously, they had nothing to lose. It's almost going to be a result for them to take anything off us, and they would inevitably score late on. We won a couple of times there, I think, the past 3 or 4 seasons. Kilmarnock obviously dropping down into top flight, but even during 55, dropping down into the second tier, Derek McInnes got back out of that a couple of seasons ago. But even the season we won 55, we only went to Rugby Park once because they failed to make the top 6, and that was awful. We won the game 1-0, Tav penalty, early doors. It was in the rain, on the plastic, an empty Rugby Park, the crowd, and it was a bit like tonight. But it was that night we had Ryan Jack kind of quarterback in the game. Well, that it was a Sunday afternoon. Ryan Jack kind of quarterbacked it, big Cedric Hitton. He's playing up wide right, and tactically it worked brilliantly. Kilmarnock were never playing us off the park in that game. We weren't poor, but it was a really stolid, stodgy performance. An awful game that we just got through, and that got us to 55. But you feel as if tonight, the way things went tonight, everything. We started that game, 3 changes to the starting lineup from Saturday. Bonner Barisic come back in for Rid van Yilmaz. We had Ross McCausland coming back in and starting instead of Dujon Sterling on the right-hand side of the attacking 3, and we had Silva coming back in for Dessers. Silva starting instead of Dessers. And I made, amongst the many mistakes I made in that podcast on Saturday after the Hearts game, I said it's more squad than ever, more squad than first 11 under Philip Clement than I think I've ever seen Rangers any other time in their history. And of course, that's going to happen when you get 5 substitutions and 6 if there's a head injury these days. So that's something that will happen. But you've got to that point. I also said, you've got to the point where you're expecting lots of changes. And you're almost not noticing the first 11 except for, and this is the other mistake I made, we've got these 4 players who play all the time under Clement: Tavernier, Jack Butland, Goldson, and John Lundstrom. But suddenly tonight, so that's Diamande and Cortez, 2 January signings, they've started like 3 games in a row now. And there's John Suter. I think he's even more than that. He's even 4 games in a row. A lot of that's because of injury to Balogun and Ben Davis. But this John Suter suddenly is starting regular, and I thought, here we go. We're actually getting more of a settled side throughout this side. It's not just that kind of axis of 4 players. We're getting a wider starting 11, a regular starting 11 that's going to give us consistency. And we kicked off. And I've been saying that within the first 40 seconds of Rangers kicking off, be it first half or second half, we kick off. First 40 seconds to a minute, we usually win a corner or have a shot on goal under Clement. It's noticeable how fast we start. And when we kicked off, we didn't kick off. It was Tom Lawrence that was actually taking centre, kind of paused. I don't know if he was waiting for a Kilmarnock player to get out the circle, or who he thought he was going to pass to wasn't available or something, but it stuttered. And he eventually knocks the ball to Goldson. And Connor Goldson goes to take to knock the ball forward to this direct style we've got under Philip Clement. And he kind of gets his foot under it, and he doesn't hit it to the person he wants. Did it go straight out? I don't know, but it was poor. And straight away, it's the surface. It's the surface. We're like Bambi on ice, and the manager went on about it extensively at yesterday's presser. And I like the way he gets the excuses in first. He did the same with Livingston. He did the same with the wind tunnel at Dumbarton. He did the same with the ploughed field up at St Johnston. He did the same with it's barely any grass on it, and it's a wind tunnel at St Mirren. and we came through all those games fine. And I thought tonight he's been caught out. Maybe he went on about the pitch too much yesterday, and we just couldn't. It wasn't like Bambi on ice so much as Bambi's mother after she's taken the shot. She's taking the bullet, and she's on roller skates on ice that's melting. The players literally looked as if they needed to change their footwear. It's plastic. It's got rain on it. It's difficult. It's a difficult surface, but we looked like we were playing in high heels. The players were turning so slowly, so tentatively. They just weren't. There was no pressure from Rangers at all. I mean, we had a shot on goal from Silva within a minute, 2 minutes, something like that, and then Connor Golson, clear header on goal. Should probably have done better. It was a good save from the goalkeeper, really early. But other than that, Kilmarnock, you could tell they were finding their pace straight away. And as I say, they've beaten Celtic twice without Celtic scoring a goal. League Cup in the league at Rugby Park this season. They have beaten us in the opening day of the season. And since when have Rangers ever won like the treble with a Dutch-speaking manager after losing in their opening game of the season? When have Rangers ever got to a European final, for example, with a Dutch-speaking manager coming in, halfway through the season or after the season started in these first European games against Sparta Prague? These things just don't happen. So we need to watch ourselves. But tonight, it looked like we were going to be the latest victim if I come on the Old Firm. Just like last season, it was Derek McInnes was beating everybody at Rugby Park except the Old Firm. It looked for a long time this season it was only the Old Firm he was going to be beaten at Rugby Park. But we don't have half of anything. And we tried to fight back, but Borna Barisic was having a nightmare. And I remember Borna in a game. I don't know which one of these terrible games at Rugby Park it was. I think it was under Gerrard. And he kept checking back at the halfway line and putting the ball back. I'm thinking he's too tentative. He's gone the other way these days. I think he gets too wound up in that wee Bampot Armstrong. I mean, I'll not be too hard on him in case we sign him. I saw Philip Clement talking to him towards the end of the game, but he's in there with his hand on. Diamondi went down and hit the deck straight away. I think Armstrong fouled him, and he's lying with his face in it, and Armstrong, he's stroking his neck. It's like sexual assault. It's disgusting, that thing where like, I'm just touching you. I'm just stroking you. If you get up and smack me like I deserve, you're going to get sent off. And he did the same thing when Borna had this absolute rush of blood to the head. He really wasn't enjoying the surface at all. And he's gone up towards his own. He was there in plenty of time. Covering against Armstrong, he should have knocked it back to Butland, or it's just turned and punted it up the park or whatever. But he decides to fall. He decides he's been fouled, and he handles the ball, stops the ball before the foul's been given. And of course, no foul was given against the Kilmarnock player, so it's a foul to Kilmarnock for handball. They work it becomes a corner, and then they hit the ball, and John Lundstrom can't get out the way of it. The ball hits him in the hand, or Lundstrom's got his hand. His hand's not away from his body, but he's clearly meaning to block the ball with his arm, and it's a penalty to Kilmarnock. Jack Burton does an interesting thing where he stands back off his line, but the ball still goes in, and wee Armstrong goes up to. He did that thing as well when Borna went down, and he touched him, and Borna reacted to it. And I'm like, what is he doing? That little creep. I was like thinking at half time, don't go down the tunnel with him, because it's not like Rugby Park, like that tiny wee tight tunnel. He's going to be in there touching up and feeling Rangers players to hope to get a reaction at them. And we looked like he was going to get a reaction out of us. So Borna went off at half time. I think we had another attempt on goal for a header for Connor Golson. Connor should have got it on target. Cortez, for me, Jack Butland was doing fine, but Cortez for me was the only player in the first half. He wasn't struggling as well. He wasn't finding his form. He wasn't finding his rhythm, but he was trying to fight his way through it. You see Goldson and Tavernier, who've been to Rugby Park so many times before, aren't perfect either, but they're at least pushing on, trying to maintain the shape, try to get the tempo going. But it was Kilmarnock. Derek McInnes knows what he's doing. He's got the players sitting in the midfield, spoiling things, putting them in the gaps. That he knows that they were going to have in the 4-2-3-1 formation the way Clement plays it. So tactically, Kilmarnock know what they're doing. They're quite right to try and exploit their pitch as well. But we weren't handling it at all, and there was a moment where Diamandi turns and tries to play a long ball from the Kilmarnock half, right the full length of our half back to Butland, doesn't get quite the contact on it, so the Kilmarnock players go through. I think there might have been a foul earlier. I think Lundstrom might have been fouled earlier, but anyway, he kind of brushes the Kilmarnock players. The Kilmarnock player tries to run past him to get onto this ball, and that lets Jack Butland, who, anticipation supreme, he comes flying out his goal. He's practically at the halfway line, and he gets the ball before the Kilmarnock player. Kilmarnock are obviously wanting Diamandi done for a foul, and that would be a red card, but I don't know if it was a foul earlier. I don't know what's happened to the VAR there or whatever, but we got away with it, or there was nothing to get away with. Anyway, it was a worrying moment. 1-0 to Kilmarnock at half time, and we came out, and I knew, Borna, I was saying on Twitter, Borna's got to get subbed. His head's gone. think other players' feet had gone, but say Cortez was the only outfield player who seemed to be offering anything, and even with him it was far from perfect. We just didn't have the shape at all. So Silva goes off, he being a non-entity, and Dessers comes on for him at half time, and YAAASSSAH, who you saw on Kilmarnock TV. David McKinnon, good to hear from David McKinnon, by the way. I forgot he'd played for Kilmarnock. I remember him playing for Partick Thistle, David McKinnon, before he went to Rangers. At the time I was going to see Rangers, first I got to see Rangers home and away. Dave McKinnon, absolutely fantastic, and great to see him back to full form tonight, or hear him back to full form, doing the commentary on Kilmarnock television with John Barnes. But Borna Barisic, he went off. We saw YAAASSSAH coming out and warming up at half time, so Borna was going off, and YAAASSSAH came out, and we took the game by the scruff of the neck eventually in the second half, after Kilmarnock played themselves through. Within the first minute, I think, of the second half kicking off, you're looking for Rangers to change things out. It's going to be a massive turnaround. We knew Celtic were 6-0 up. We knew we were in second place in the league. So you're waiting for a massive turnaround from Rangers, and straight away Kilmarnock looked like they should have put the game to bed. Is it Vassell? He goes down our left-hand side, pulls the ball across, and it's just point blank. I think it's a penalty spot. The guy has a shot. I don't know the Kilmarnock player's name, but it's a shot just to put it either side of Jack Butland, and Butland gets down. He's trying to go slightly to the left as he's looking at Butland, but Butland gets down there, and it's a point blank, brilliant save from England's inevitable new number one. Fantastic, Jack Butland. Just one of those moments that makes you think that's the kind of save that wins leagues at that time in the game. We then just go all out assault, and Tom Lawrence, who'd been kind of quiet in the first half, he's obviously getting the support he needs now. Dessers is making the runs that he needs, and what have you. We'd obviously had a rollicking for Clement at half time, or a tweaking. He goes up, piles forward, has a shot, but he's kind of pushed off the ball. The shot goes past the post, and it's a foul about 25 yards out. James Tavernier. If we're in trouble, if you need anything, another mistake I made last week was I said James Tavernier won't score as many goals this season because Clement's got him playing a bit deeper, a bit more tucked in at times to guard against counter attacks. I just meant look from open play. He's still coming up to take the free kicks and the penalties. He's probably going to end up with 40 goals this season. That was just the goalie got a hand to it. But just could only push it into the far corner of the net. Tav steps up. What was that? About 54 minutes, I think. Strokes on a free kick from outside the box. Just saves us again. He just always does. Doesn't matter the situation. If we're getting hammered, we're winning, whatever. Tav just does it. He just does. Anyway. I've said too much about Tav this season already. His statistics say all that needs to be said about him. In it goes. It's one each. We've got a chance here, and we then immediately substitute Dujon Sterling on for Ross McCausland. I thought, are we going to try and hold things up? Are we going to try and kind of hold out for the draw here? Surely not. Have you not seen the score at half-time at Parkhead, Mr. Clement? But no. Dujon Sterling, as always, did absolutely fantastic when he came on, and the attacking stepped up a gear. And Cyril Dessers, who's come on here, the thing with Dessers, we always think he's got no pace. He certainly did have no pace at the beginning of the season. That's why he was getting caught offside all the time. Try to compensate for that, and we can see why he was trying to compensate for it, because he's getting sharper. He's not a speed merchant by any manner of means, but sharpness of quickness. I thought the first 2 yards are in your head, as Ollie McCoist always says. He just is a throw in room at halfway line. He just runs, picks this ball up, shies it straight away. I think, was it to Tom Lawrence? And Lawrence piles up the wing. He piles up the wing as Dessers is getting himself in the box, and then there's a foul, and Tom Lawrence just controls the ball with his hand. I'll be taking that foul, referee. As a foul to you, and he plays it straight in. I think to Dessers. Was it Dessers? And he's in the box, and he's kind of controlling it, holding up, can't quite get the shot, but the ball spins off him to Cortez, I think, who beats 2 or 3 guys, and he gets through, and he's gutted that he's not getting a through ball to him. It gets blocked, but it comes back out to Tom Lawrence, kind of just inside the box, the far corner of the box, and he whacks it. Just a daisy cutter, even though no daisies can grow in that surface, right into the far bottom corner, and it's 2-1 to Rangers in the space of, we turned it down in the space of 10 minutes. 5 minutes, I think it's 5 minutes. It's 54 and 59 minutes, the goals. And the Chadwick stand ends up coming onto the pitch, right to the very point where wee Armstrong had been goading the same fans in the first half after his goal. So a wee bit of justice done there. Absolutely fantastic. Rangers 2-1. And straight away, it felt like straight away, a few minutes later, Dessers hits there's a corner, and Dessers hits the bar, and I'm like, that was it. That was the chance. We never go 2 goals ahead. And so many times, as I said before, we have fought our way back into a game at Rugby Park and thought that's us done enough. And almost like because of the effort to get back to, like that whole Liverpool boot room is saying you can start a game too fast and slow down, but you can't start a game too slow and speed up. It's like the effort to do just that when we start so badly at Rugby Park so often ends up meaning we switch off too early, and Kilmarnock will inevitably get the late equaliser. And that it was compounded when straight away Cortez, the man who suddenly had everybody else playing at the same rhythm and pace and skill levels as himself, he goes off. I hoped it looked like a thigh strainer at best. It looked like a hammy. It looked like a hammy had gone, a hamstring. So I hope he's not out the game. I hope he's not injured long term, because he's really is just, you can see why the manager is instantly picking him, making him a start every week, one of the regulars. And it's just like the thing, of course, the way that things are going with Rangers and injuries this season, that's him picking an injury straight away. And that was the end of our forward-going impetus. Kilmarnock kind of crept slowly back into the game to the point where they had those 3 corners in the last minute of 7 minutes of injury time. But we got off with it and thoroughly earned it. Mass celebrations at the end. A great night for Rangers, managing to stay top of the league. I'm going to keep talking because it was major. It wasn't boring in any way, shape or form. This manager incubating us against the vagaries of other teams' results and insulating us against the mad expectations of people like myself in a positive sense, and then Celtic fans, Celtic employees, and perhaps certain members of the media who always want him to say something. He's maintained the pace. He found the course through all the daft stuff we were all thinking as supporters, Rangers supporters, on Sunday when Celtic are getting beat at half time, and he's managed to have us, as I was starting to talk about on Saturday there after the game against Hearts, in a situation where we're playing catch up at the beginning of the year, just try to basically not even catch up, just trying to make sure Celtic don't go off over the horizon into the distance. He stayed with them, and then he's got to the point where you've got a chance to go top, or go level on points, and then it's a chance to go level on points, but maybe ahead of them 1 goal difference. He didn't quite manage it. They're giving you a chance to go ahead on points. He takes it. How are you going to do against Hearts, form team in the country? How are you going to do against them? Can you handle being top of the league, starting the game top of the league? We win 5-0. Then you go tonight to Rugby Park. Celtic are 6-0 up at half time. It's just, you're second. Now, you've thrown it away at half time. They brought it back. That's the focus that Philip Clement is bringing to the club. And we've got 1 more league game, and then we get to the European stuff. And it's Europe, Scottish Cup, Europe, Benfica, Hibs, Benfica. The Celtic don't have Europe. They've got the Scottish Cup, same as us. But I think for the manager to get, as I said that thing on Saturday as well about how we're squirreling away the points. He's like a squirrel in reverse, squirreling away all these 3 points in winter to guard against the springtime, where things are going to start getting a bit harder with the busier schedule. And I suddenly realised the night, suddenly I was going on about the fact I was singing the old Saxon song, the eagle has landed, because we drew Benfica in Europe, and I was really looking forward to the Benfica, their symbols, the eagle was going to land. And then I just realised, I think it was yesterday, oh no, Kilmarnock's badge, their crest features 2 squirrels. And it's going to be a case of the squirrel has landed, right in our nuts tonight, and has ruined the whole vibe. I was getting too ahead of myself, getting too happy too early, but no, we were absolutely fantastic. And I think if we can get to the point, I think Celtic will go top of the league again at some point, but we've had a good taste of being top of the league. They've had a good taste of being second as well. Nothing is certain anymore, and that was what it's all about this season, getting a manager in who could put the doubt in there to them. He's done too well now. We're now going to be disappointed if we don't win the league. But he's absolutely fantastic. If we can beat Motherwell, and that won't be easy either, because Motherwell, a bit wild at times, Motherwell, but they certainly showed plenty of form on Sunday there against Celtic. I don't know how they got in the night in the league. I've not checked the other results yet, or what's happened with Cortez's injury. But it's definitely another tough game. But if we can get the 3 points on board, it's like, yeah, we've won every point available to us in the year 2024 before we've played a couple of Scottish Cup games, but against lower league opposition. It's then, the following Thursday that things start getting really, really heavy in terms of the fixture schedule, and we start playing more games than Celtic. at that point in time when we go over to Lisbon, ironically. So aye, it's fantastic the manager has taken us to this point. Just let's get those 3 points against Motherwell on Saturday at Ibrox, and again try to put Celtic under pressure. What was the main problem tonight? I think it was this. I told you I'm from Ayrshire. I'm from and I used to work at ATMAs used to sponsor Kilmarnock. I used to work for ATMAs, because ATMAs are people that were born in Seamill or West Kilbride, and they set up their office in their family company, the Moffats. The Jim Moffat stand. That's a stand opposite the Chadwick stand at Rugby Park, which I've been in as a Rangers supporter. We sometimes used to get that stand as well in Rugby Park. And I used to work for ATMAs because their head office was in Salkirk, like a local employer. And when I left school as soon as I possibly could, because I just wanted to watch Rangers everywhere, that's when I got my job. I got a job as a general dog's body at ATMAs, and I ended up in their property department. And Salkirk's the head office. My mum's from Salkirk, so it's the town next door to Ardrossan, and I ended up in the property department after about 6 months or something, just because I had to. When I was at school, Mr. Bannatyne was the guy who gave you advice on. He was a great teacher, lovely man, but he just lived in a world where, you still had to get apprenticeships. He thought folk were still going to be doing massive apprenticeships in the 1990s. So in the mid-80s, he's saying to me, "No, son, you can't. Studying arts, and you should get yourself. You're not going to get an apprenticeship at ICI doing dressmaking and German expressionism." So I took, physics. I got a C for physics and a C for chemistry, and that was just practical enough to get me a job in the property department at ATMAs, because they just wanted to pay terrible wages to young folk who were just desperate for a job like myself. So I would end up in the property department, and I didn't know anything about property. I was interested in was watching Rangers home and away, playing football with the ATMAs, football team in the Sunday league, and playing 7-a-sides on a Tuesday night. And I would read my World Soccer, kind of stained, stuck like other World Soccer magazines stuck under the mattress, and I would read Simon Inglis, football grounds of Scotland, football grounds of England, Wales, Britain, Europe. I got all his books, but I did this kind of talking about property. These shop fitting ATMAs were a British or a UK wide company, and I'd be sitting there phoning up, a couple of camp guys, travel agents in Melton Mowbray, saying that you want me to send down the big muscly joiner with his massive toolbox to give you more wood for your shelves for your European city break brochures. I like what you like. We're bored. We're all really bored. And then one day my boss, and John Hall, Newcastle United, used to be Newcastle. They built the Metro Centre. ATMAs had a shop in the Metro Centre down at Gateshead. So John Hall was in the office. He was in my boss's office next door. My boss was a private school guy. He was into rugby and golf and all that. Had a mansion in Helensburgh or something, a converted villa or something. A different world to me. And John Hall was in there for Newcastle United. He owned Newcastle at the time, because we were getting a shop in Gateshead in the property department. And then one day, he says to me, "Alec, come on through." And I went through into the office, and it was a guy. What was his nickname? It was something like Sweetie Bob or Mars Bar Mike or something. It was a guy. He started off selling. He's a bit of a personality. He started off selling Mars bars straight out of school, and ends up as a commercial manager, CEO or something at Kilmarnock. This is like kind of late 80s. And he's sitting in the office, and he's got massive kind of artist impression drawings of the Rugby Park that you know today. This is Rugby Park at this time was still terrace, and 3/4 terrace, and the big wide bits behind the goal, the big semicircular classic Scottish bowl shaped stadium. And he's got these drawings of 4 stands, 3 brand new cantilever stands, all fully seated with shiny. This is the late 80s, when only really Ibrox was like that. Maybe McDermott. And I recognise this guy, and he's got the plans, got the drawings there as well. So architectural drawings of the. I'm like, oh my god! And my boss says to me, "Al, you know about football, don't you?" I'm like, I do, boss. I do. And in the office downstairs is Jim Moffat, who's sponsoring the ATMAs. ATMAs is sponsored Kilmarnock. He's in the office doing the chairman, the owner of the company. Who I'd talked to a few times, he bumped into him and that kind of thing, and he was always kind of interested. But he sent this guy up here with the odd, because ATMAs are going to sponsor. They're going to be involved maybe in the building of this new stadium, and my boss doesn't know anything about it. And he's like, "You know about soccer, don't you?" I said, "Aye." "So you know about stadiums, don't you?" And I thought, yeah. Finally, my life means something. Finally, not only am I going to get to put to use all the like Betamax videos that are all worn through, that I've got all the European Cup finals at the Olympic stadiums in Munich and Athens and Rome and all that, or the Simon Inglis football books, but I'm going to get to do it at the first stadium I ever went to. Did I go? I think I went to Rugby Park for a minute. I don't know if I did, but it's put my the paternal grandfather that I never met, that I never knew. Finally, I'm going to get to assuage some of my guilt at no support my local team, because I'm going to help him, bring his stadium into the 21st century, make Rugby Park the greatest. My boss said, "You know about football, don't you?" I said, "I do, boss." "You know about stadiums, don't you?" "I do, boss." Well, Salcott's Vics have been on the phone, and the roof's blown off their covered enclosure. Could you get onto the council and get them to find the roof and get it nailed back on? So I did that. I ended up in the Cunningham District Council offices, and actually the covered, we built a new covered enclosure because Jim Moffat wanted to test the water first. He wanted to get into football in Ayrshire, kind of at the bottom end first, and he built them a new covered enclosure. And I wouldn't say I designed it, but I definitely looked at the plans and I went, aye, that's that kind of thing. You see it in the television. See every time John Mackay's given that storms disrupt the travel in Scotland, and they show you that's the footage of the water coming over the train as it comes into Salcott. It's always a train coming sort of along the coast. It's the tracks along the coast. Just the other side of that, it's the slaughterhouse first, but it's the same kind of cladding type of stand. That's the stand at the back of Campbell Park, Salcott's Vics. I support 3 teams: Scotland, England won the World Cup, you haven't. Rangers, Celtic won European Cup, you haven't. And Ardrossan Winton Rovers, Salcott's Vics have won the Scottish Junior Cup, you haven't. I had to build the bloody stand, the covered enclosure that's still there this day. I've got my... Anyway, so that was my involvement with FITBA. But the one thing I didn't see in any of the drawings was plastic grass. I didn't see plastic, and it was natural. I know it's an artist's impression, but it was obviously grass as God intended it. It was the real thing. And the thing is, because everybody knew, then the only time I went to see Kilmarnock with my dad was Kilmarnock versus Rangers in a friendly that was getting played. Remember, Gregor Stevens broke the guy's leg. He just jumped toward the ball. It's the most vicious tackle I've ever seen in my life. He just jumped toward the ball and snapped the guy's leg in two. It was a friendly that had been arranged hastily at Rugby Park because all the other fixtures in Scotland were called off because of snow and ice. But Rugby Park was always playable. It was always, that was the thing with Rugby Park. It was the most playable pitch in Western Europe. It never got frozen. It used to be covered in hay all the time. But that was the whole thing. So there was absolutely no need to change it. And I saw it tonight. Rangers, they couldn't handle it. I feel like Clement made such a big deal of the surface. I don't know if it was the shoes we were wearing or what. I don't know what kind of studs, what kind of mouldies, whatever it is. I played FITBA and AstroTurf much more often than I played, even at my age. In the late 80s, there was AstroTurf coming up everywhere. I played it everywhere. But I don't know. I think that was the problem tonight. The main problem that the AstroTurf seemed to get to them. It affected their rhythm. It affected their chi, really. But we got over it. And we got over Celtic being first at half time. And we got over the top of them. We're top of the league. Once again, it will be Brian and Stuart on the podcast on Friday night, properly reviewing this game and looking ahead to Motherwell at Ibrox. Thanks for your time, folks. Top of the league, and they know.